Well, welcome everybody to Council Checkup. My name is Don Walmsley, your host, and with us is our esteemed Mayor Brian Hedley. Welcome, Brian. And Brian has been in this seat before, but as a councillor, we've just elected a new council, as has many other municipalities in Manitoba. So congratulations.
Thank you.
And so now you're sitting in a big chair.
Yep.
So tell me, how does it feel?
Good. Does it feel a lot different? No, I can't say that, but I think the big thing that there's 5 of us that have worked together in the past.
Yes.
And
yes.
So with five of us reelected, that has that keeps things fairly normal to the way it was, and you know each of the 5, and over the last 4 years you get to know everybody very well. And then Councillor Pottinger, although Lisa is new this term, she's been a councillor before.
She's been a councillor before.
Yep. So she very much knows what's going on, and then Councillor Cicely, Yvonne I've known Yvonne for years. She's going to be a real great addition to the group.
Yeah, I think so. I was really excited to see her stand up, and she was representing a different aspect of the community as well. Very good. Yeah,
absolutely. And Yvonne's been involved with a lot of recreation throughout the time that I've known her. I've known her a number of years, so certainly we'll be keeping her busy on the recreation side of things as well. But so the great thing about it is with so many experienced in that, we're able to hit the ground running and continue on with a lot of the...
Yeah, not as much catch-up as the last council, which was largely, except for 2 people, I think, was new.
Yeah, exactly.
And so there was that, okay, we need to get some information here and understand the process.
Right.
As you're saying, perhaps really the only one who is not familiar with the process is Yvonne.
Yeah, that's right.
And so that means you can't, you're right, hit the ground running.
Yeah.
And continue on with some of the projects and things that have been going on.
Yeah.
So that's kind of exciting because we are still in a growing trend here.
Oh, yeah, that's for darn sure.
There's lots of things sort of on the plate. And we'll get to some other things, but I'm just thinking on the plate, we've seen some groundwork happening around the new Western Hotel.
Yes.
And that sounds exciting.
Yeah, that's for sure. So next year it will be 25 years ago that I moved here, and at that time the Super 8 was quite a new new motel, and so it was exciting to have people come and stay and family members and that utilize the hotel, and so to be able to see that transpire again, another new hotel like that, and there's a real need for it. We're coming up with Viterra Curling here in February, and and there's lots of different programs throughout the year, lots of different activities where hotel space is required, and we have been limited on that, rightfully so. We haven't been that large a community, but as the community continues to grow, there's a real need for rooms.
Well, and with Riding Mountain, National Park so close, I remember when they had the motel at going north.
Riding Mountain or McCreary?
Kelwood. In between. The one that lots of people going skiing would stop there, go to the slope. Same here. Even though the skiing's moved, heading up that way or to Dauphin.
Yeah.
It's a good point.
Yeah.
The other thing is a little bit of traction starting on the hotel, or the hotel. I'm thinking the medical hotel, the hospital.
Yeah, the hospital.
The hospital.
Yeah, you can stay there. Not as many are keen on staying there.
That's right. That's right.
But that has been a real dream for myself, for the community.
Yeah.
Even Tanya and I talked about, as we get older in that, you know, what are we looking for healthcare facilities and that?
That's
and
correct.
as do a lot of people. And so over the last number of years, with the different ideas, how this could or should evolve, certainly this for the community is the best thing that could happen. And so it's going to allow a lot of people, new people that look at Neepawa and say, wow, you know, with the medical facilities that they have there, that's going to be enticing to move there. And for seniors that are already here, it's going to be enticing to stay here. So
well, and coupled with that, over the past 2.5 years, we've seen a new fire hall, a new police station, all drawing cards.
yes,
If you want to look at it for a variety of reasons, we're looking at safety. We're with the medical facility. It was timely. This would not have happened 10 years ago. But with our influx of newcomers and the growth in the population and the steady growth and the retention, sometimes you get people coming in, but then they leave. Well, we can see retention is a reality here because look at the growth, the actual population growth. Because we have people who come and then decide to move, like all of us have done at different times in our lives. But the number of people that have stayed, we look at the schools, the fact we need another school.
yeah,
It's all
incredible?
very impactful when you take a look, and the new approach to rural medical, where they're looking more at those hubs with other hospital facilities providing different kinds of services as spokes. It just seems the model of the future, simply from economics more than anything else.
yeah. Yeah, and as you travel out there, you're right, you can see the ground excavation work being completed. You can see the fencing going up. It gives you a lot better visual of actually how large a center it's going to be.
Well, when I took a look at the pictures, I thought, holy cow, this looks pretty modern.
Hey,
and
does it ever.
Pretty slick. So it bodes well. It bodes challenges. And
yep.
I think probably, and I know we've talked about this before, and probably the biggest challenge at this point in time is housing.
Yes.
You know, looking forward, it currently is now, and will be then. So that's one of the big things that the council is going to have to be really whittling away at to see what.
Yeah, and we do continually work on not only some existing projects, but also look at new ideas. And it's something that's foremost in our minds. But you know, you're a little bit handicapped in the fact that the town doesn't own the land surrounding the community.
Yes.
So that can bring in some challenges sometimes.
It can, because my understanding is the town's pretty much developed all the land they had access to. There's
still areas that we would like, that we're working on, planning some ideas and that. We still have area over at the old Eastview Lodge.
Yeah.
And we have some other thoughts, but there isn't. I know Don Schmall still has some lots out there available, and but yeah, as to having a lot, no, there isn't. There isn't a huge variety.
So you've had a couple of meetings now, have you? As
yes,
mayor?
You bet.
So how have that been going? What sort of things are hot in the agenda these days?
Well, you know, along with the hospital, with the groundwork and that, actually, we'll be looking at pile driving in January, so that's going to be coming up quickly as well.
Wow. Okay.
Because you think the size and scope of that project, that's got to be completed by 2025. So seems like a long way away, but as we all know, 2 years can go by awful quickly.
Holy cow, that's quick.
Yeah.
And that's just the first phase, I understand. They looked at the possibility of.
Well, I think everything that I think everything that probably is built nowadays, whether you're like
Yeah.
ourselves in retail world, or whether you're doing projects
Yeah.
with the government, you always make sure that you can do expansion. I don't know if there would be anything there, but I guess it's available for down the road. But
they've got.
but
Go
certainly the like the kidney dialysis unit being that was a new add-on, and so that's going to be very exciting. With the catchment area, I think they were saying 25, 30 people that would utilize those services
at any one time
within our trading area. And
well, and that's and also the emergency department, additional beds, because I think we're seeing everywhere, for no matter what the age group, given the sort of viruses and things that are going around, a lot more bed use is being used, and very impressive. The space, 40 acres or roughly thereabout. That's
a big area.
That's a big area.
Yeah, sure is.
And it as you said, it's exciting.
It's very exciting. And when you go back over, just since this is starting my 5th year on council, and like you said, and I give credit to a lot of previous councils and administration and that, but to be able to open a middle school, a brand new fire hall, a new RCMP headquarters, a new hospital within a couple of terms, I question how many councillors, staff, as a mayor, I question how many have done that in throughout the different communities in Manitoba.
It almost seemed like Neepawa had been sitting on a cusp, and suddenly they went over the edge, and things just started to fall, and one thing led to another, to another. It's been, the stats I had up until about 2010, Neepawa's population had been stable for about 70 years. And there's been a tremendous change. And lots of communities, rural communities, lately have been sort of slowly slipping back or fading away. And we've seen now, with a lot more newcomers coming to the rural area, a little bit of resurgence. Neepawa has really benefited, and that's because of, High Life and its expansion and growth and bringing people in. But it served the community and I think the surrounding area very well. Yeah,
exactly. Like, I know that Gladstone's numbers are up, Minnedosa's numbers are up. And, I know as you go around the province, immigration has helped in a lot of different communities. So, and there's, with COVID the last couple of years, there's, I understand there's a bit of a backlog as well. So, and bringing families over. So I think we'll see a lot more growth, and we need it. We need it. This, the labor force has changed due to COVID. So many people are talking about, where did the people go? I think there was such a large group of age 55 to 75 that were in the workforce. People didn't realize that all of a sudden COVID comes along, and I know even myself, that scared us when it first started, and that we were very fearful, and so there was a lot of people exited the workforce, just saying, wow, like, this is too scary.
And it's left a real gap. I know that there are lots of jobs out there, and yet you listen to the national statistics, and they're saying more people are being employed, and I'm looking at all the empty jobs saying, well, where's that happening? Because there's vacancies, so that's interesting.
Well, that age 55 to 75 exited the market, labor market, and you know what? For the most case, they're not coming back. And so then what happened is, younger people in retail, in restaurants and hospitality, with the closures and that, they started retraining, and there's quite a number of them not coming back. So different different pockets throughout, you know, the labor force all through Canada are really struggling, some more so than other areas.
Well, and I'd suspect some of those ones between that 55 to 70 age bracket or whatever, their skill sets are very high. And younger people coming up have not had the opportunity to have the experience to have those same kind of skill sets. So sometimes filling those, you're right, I think we are seeing that sort of change in terms of how we look at work.
Yeah.
Certainly a lot more people are saying, well, I can work from home. Some of those more companies that are basically a paper-based company, insurance agencies, other kinds of things. Not so much the ones that are dealing with people face-to-face. But some of those others, I know that certain departments in government are looking at mostly work from home with maybe only a few days in the office for particular meetings or purposes during the course of a month. It just, so all that office space. So there's real estate now. It's very intriguing when you start looking at peeling off the layers of that onion and seeing where it goes.
Yeah, you're right. So then, you know, I've had people say, well, why would we be building a new hospital if there's such a struggle with labor and that, and doctors and nurses, and yes, agreed on that. But as a council and administration, we've been doing a lot of work in that area, both in doctors and working with the physicians, and we've also been looking at different, you know, training options and things like that. So we've got you know, a lot on our plate to make sure, like, we have to be working with the province as well to make sure that that hospital gets up and gets running and is running efficiently.
Well, it's not just that, but you take a look at Brandon, and the Brandon covers and addresses a large area. I mean, Dauphin would be sort of the next one, and the load on there is tremendous.
Yes.
Looking at places like a hub in Neepawa could take off a fair load like that. And I think we have to be realistic. We're looking at servicing a larger service area. It's just one of those things, and I hear what you're saying. The times they are changing, clearly, and sometimes we're sort of pedaling a bit to catch up to say, okay, we need to do new ways of thinking about things.
That's
how we do this, how we do that. It's really quite remarkable.
And you know, a community is a big ship, and it takes a long time to get things, you know, turned in certain directions and courses. For example, Park Lake.
I was just going to ask, how's that going?
Good, but again, that you know, here we are going into 2023. The flood was 2020, but you know, there is so much administration on trying to get things ready to repair all the damages in that. I can't remember the number exactly, but you know, somewhere in that $11 to $13 million worth of damages in that, and you know, something as simple as riverbank erosion. So, you know, in the old days, you just went and put fill back into it and filled it up and concrete or whatever. But, you know, there is a pile of government agencies that we have to work with. And
that's intriguing, isn't it? Because you're right. Back in the old day, okay, let's get a,
let's fix it.
Yeah, let's get a bulldozer. Let's get, you know, back whatever we need just to get it done. Now, talking about that, is it likely to be open this next summer?
No.
It's still going to take. Really?
It's going to take. So right now, so the first project is we'll be trying to do a couple things at the same time, but the first is to try and focus on the golf course, because the golf course sustained major damage there. There has to be, it's just shy of $1 million bridge replaced in there, along with some riverbank erosion over there as well. So that that is going to be starting real soon. Weeks-wise, that'll get going, and so that has to be up and going quickly because April will come quickly. And,
yes, it will.
From there, we go right back into golf season again. So a lot of that project has to be completed before golfing gets started again. So that, like I said, that project will be starting, like I said, within the next few weeks. So then shifting over to Park Lake, of course, I don't know if you've gone down and seen our beautiful new bridge down there. That's not quite $1.5 million bridge. But you know, I've seen the water roaring through there. We saw it take out the bridges. Last year we saw it running at full flood again from the snow melt that we had, and with the culverts that were in there, I was worried we're going to lose those culverts again. And so you have to have something that is built to, you know, that was 2 years ago, was supposed to be the, what's our numbers, the 500-year flood or the 1,000-year flood, whatever, or something. And then just last year, I have never seen snow.
Well,
like
all that rain we had starting early, and the snow from the snow as well, because both a heavy snowfall from what we've had for the past few years, and then all that rain.
All you had to do was go around and take a look at the lakes around Manitoba, and they had receded huge. There was, I don't know, 25, 30, 40 feet of shore showing, and in one winter that was filled up. I remember in our shop at home, I remember Grandpa had pictures of the team of horses with the pull-behind snowplow. Yeah. And Dad and my uncles were standing on a snowbank above the horses' heads. Yep. And we had, they weren't Clydes, but they were something similar to Clydes. They were large horses. Well, I haven't seen that kind of snow in my childhood, but last winter there was a lot of snow. So, you know, the lakes filled up, and again, you know, with the changes of drainage throughout different areas and that, where the water comes through quickly. So that had to be a very strong, going to maintain forever kind of bridge. I'm pretty sure we could drive a tank over it, but it'll be there for a while. So it's there. Yeah. And so now it's continuing with the berms and with the cleaning out inside? Well, and no, that part. First the berms, the wall of the dam have to be taken down, and that will actually start, I had to make some notes because I couldn't remember all the timelines in that. That's going to be starting in January as well. And then it can only be taken down about 2/3 because, again, we've got another spring coming. And so you can't just open everything up completely, because then, good Lord, what's going to happen then if we have a heavy snow? Right. And even though it doesn't look like it now, take a look in January and see where we're at. I know. It's so hard to predict. Yeah, it is. And, you know, I'm not a great one to debate about global warming and all that. I honestly don't know. But has weather patterns changed the last 10 years? Yeah, definitely. It's different for sure. So we have to be cautious. You can't just go in and take out the entire lake, enclosure. So a lot of that will be done through the winter, and then as soon as spring melt is over, then we have to get working on the spillway in that as well. Getting that all sorted out. And the goal would be to try and be completed by the end of next year, but just with the amount of projects that I've been involved with, with work and with the town, Is that realistic? I don't know. All it takes
Well,
is
and you can never tell. Weather can certainly put a factor.
weather, supply is trying to get,
Yeah.
like this global on-demand supply was, how did any of us know that that was going to turn into a disaster? And you just-in-time inventory doesn't work when you have pandemics and labor shortages and all kinds of things. So.
Well, there were those who warned and said, be careful, all it takes, and nothing was happening, and now suddenly it does, and we take a look and say, well, maybe this wasn't the brightest idea. We should have had at least some kind of backup plan, or maybe this whole approach needs to be modified in some ways.
Yeah, no, that's right. So, so the Park Lake, like I said, we hope to have it completed, you know, by the end of 23 into 24. To be able to, I haven't got the right terminology, but to dredge, to be able to dredge that lake and, you know, deal with, first of all, there's the government regulations are so stringent, plus there is such a large volume of material there. It wouldn't be covered. It wouldn't be covered by the province, so that would be our own bill, and it would be a huge bill. And we can't take on stuff like that. You know, we don't know what the dollar figure is, but we're going to have a portion of the new hospital, pay for a new portion of the hospital. And so, you know, as you're prioritizing things, you know, do you want to put your money towards a new hospital, or do you want to have Park Lake a little deeper? You know, that's a no-brainer. So
well, and isn't part of the condition they'll bring it back to the way it was?
Exactly.
But anything beyond that then becomes the town, municipality, whatever.
That's
it is.
exactly right. Yeah, and you can't just touch areas. You know, with conservation for, you know, with fish, oceans and fisheries and that. I'm not even, I don't know, I'm not even sure that we'd get approval to even do any dredging anyways. You know, there's just so many things that you would have to go through. But at the end of the day, it's the cost. It's a cost that the community just can't bear right now. Like when you think for upcoming projects, like we have, so we're working on the hospital, Park Lake, and that is covered, you know, off of through the emergency. I'm not sure the term, but emergency measures, and but we have a huge bill that we're going to be a part of for the hospital. And we also have to finish our wastewater treatment plant, which will be coming up this year as well. And
what's left on there? Because I know we've gone from 3 cells down to 1 cell. Denise was on in the past couple of years talking about that whole process and the new method of looking at treating sewage. What's left to do there? Yeah.
Well, I don't 100% know. I asked Denis, he told me. A lot of it is improvements and upgrades on what we have existing and some changes in that, but it's several $1 million, and
but that's all money that's not coming from within the town, is it?
No, that isn't.
This is all outsourced funding.
A portion of it, though, but a portion of it ourselves.
Yeah.
So for going forward, when I was out talking to people on that, it was very loud and clear. Streets and sidewalks, very loud and clear. That's understandable. So we know that is something that we're going to have to be looking at. But we've just completed a $4 million RCMP headquarters. You know, we're going to have a substantial bill for the hospital. And
well, it'll be a percentage, right?
It'll be a percentage, but it's going to be a lot.
Oh yeah.
a lot of money.
Yeah. Well,
And
it's a
so
large
then,
project.
you know, we're going to be limited for a few years on what we can actually tackle for new projects and that. Continually, the administration staff, thank goodness we have got such a good staff, but they're always looking for grants. So there are some projects on the go that we are so pleased that we picked up grants on. So the bike park, the bike trail, walking trail, and bike park is one. And yes, we've heard loud and clear from the residents that maintenance maintenance on that facility has to be better, and we know that.
Yeah.
We've looked at a lot of the concerns that the community's had and said, okay, you know, we're going to have to look at how we're going to address this. But we received grants there that will help us to be able to be working on that for this coming year.
Because I was going to ask you about that, because I know that had been, people have been raising some concerns.
Yeah, and it is, and you know, things as simple as you know, we've got the trail. Tanya and I walk probably at least 3 times a week out there. Just love for walking, and that love the facility. Not venturous enough to go on the biking trails, but the walking definitely. But like weed growth coming up through the walkways and that, like there has to. We don't have, you know, specialized equipment to control that stuff, and we're limited on you know, weed control or that, because that is a public area.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that we're going to be looking at, is how do we maintain this, you know, a bit better? What do we need for that? And then certainly just the way it was built in that, we've had some erosion that has to be looked after. The trails have to be, you know, built back up, and we have to look at how we're going to handle some of the erosion a little bit better. So that'll be an ongoing job this coming year. Another project that we received grants on is the pool slide and some of the pool upgrades.
Yes, looking at doing that. That was talked about last year.
Right.
That it was coming up, and sort of just sounds pretty actually kind of exciting.
Yeah.
And a nice thing to do, but also lots of talk about that whole facility needs to be accessible. It needs to be completely changed.
That's the biggest challenge, is that you know, it's been the same facility in the 25 years I've been here, so I don't actually know how old it is, but yes, it wasn't built for the accessibility standards that we need today. And when you think about that, you know, we want that facility for everybody in the community to be able to have access to that. So in order to do that, that means some major changes as well.
If I'm not mistaken, I think that might have been built, and I'm sure there's people out there who could correct me. We had a summer games here back in the 60s.
Oh, okay.
And I think, if I'm not mistaken, that's when the pool was put in. It was part of that.
Okay.
You know how they do those kinds of improvements of places. I think it was something, funnily enough, I think Ivan Trail was quite sort of involved in that kind of, in that process. But
well,
so it's a long time.
Yeah.
It's been here a long time.
Yeah, and I know, you know, from home, the one at Hamiota, I would say it would have been 60s, early 70s as well.
Yeah.
We used it a lot as kids. So that facility received some grants that we can get started on it, but you know, nowhere near what we need to get it to where we do have a master plan for it, but it's, you know, that's going to be an ongoing project there.
You talked about one of the things you heard loud and clear and see is roads and streets. Does that kind of work come exclusively within the town's budget, or can you get grants for those kinds of things?
Well, our admin team are pretty good at you know, finding grants. I've never heard them talk about anything there. I know they're constantly on the, you know, looking for new areas, and so, for example, what happens is we've had you know, some of the public say, well, you know, instead of putting the 500,000 into the bikes or the 300,000 into the excuse me, into the pool, why don't you move that money elsewhere? Well, that's when you're receiving grants, that isn't the way it works.
No, it's not. They're typically very specific, and you have very little wiggle room usually with them.
Right. So to try and
be able to, project-based grant.
Exactly. And so to try and move that in other areas, yeah, sure, there's probably areas that that would take a priority, but we're limited on what we can do there. I'm just so glad that the staff are able to find some of the grants, and that you know, through the province and through the federal government, that we're able to access some of this money.
Well, I know the last two councils have spoken quite highly about the skill sets that your administrative staff have in terms of securing grants and looking after things and planning projects. It's when you think of the volume of different projects that have happened in the past 6 years, last two councils started and completed, it's a lot.
Yeah.
It really is a lot. You were mentioning a bit earlier about the larger projects, but some of the smaller ones.
Yeah, it is. And I'm not going to talk a lot about our administration staff, the tremendous work that they do, the great leadership that they have, because I know that there are other councillors from other communities that tell me that they often watch either this or watch our council minutes. So yeah, our staff is good, but they're not moving anywhere.
No poaching. I think that's the message here. You can't poach the staff.
Yeah, no, we're just so fortunate, the people that we have. And so like I said, you know, as we evolve over the next you know, number of years, and ourselves as a council, our hands are going to be a little bit tied by, we have a large project in the hospital that's going to take a tremendous amount of resources, and you know, so we'll still try and focus on, you know, roads and streets. We know that there's, you know, housing is a concern. We know that we all know that and that we want to have you know, what I've called generational planning in recreation for the next coming years, and that it's nice to see in the papers that they're starting to get a lot of discussion about that, but there's no putting the cart before the horse. The hospital has to come first, you know.
Well, given the timelines, given the need, it's long been. I mean, I'm sure there will be people again who will correct me, but I would suspect for at least 20 years there's been talk around. Well, back when they were doing the personal care home, Country Meadows, there was talk at planning saying, well, the hospital is going to need to be redone, and they were talking about it back then. So it is a critical piece, especially now that there's the willingness and the commitment to having it done.
Yeah, and you know, I have you know, I've heard many people say, why would you put the hospital in that location or away from, you know, where it was designed with Country Meadows and that? But you know, the pandemic came along and just changed life for everyone. One of the things that that the medical world learned out very quickly is, do you want your hospitals oh, excuse me, do you want your hospitals attached to your senior centers? And you know, so that all of a sudden that was a you know, an eye-opener. And then I was watching program on TV you know, over the last couple of years somewhere, and it talked about how even you know, as they're designing new senior centers and that, designing them in pods so that you have so that if you have something happen
You're
in one
able
pod
to isolate other,
so if you've got a pod of between 10 or 20 people in one area, that whole, the heating, the ventilation, the air system, everything can be separated from the other pod groups, and which I think is fantastic idea, but it's taken something like this for us all to learn. So,
well, Mother Nature has a way of slapping us in the face and saying, wake up, take a look at what can happen, what I can do, and are you prepared for it? And you either say yes or, oh, no, we're not. We need to rethink some things.
And we have a beautiful community here. We're built along a valley, and along a valley has hills. So when you go around this community, how many 40-acre flat pieces of property can you find?
Well, and the 40 acres itself, you know, if you, where within, other than where you've got in immediate proximity, you only have what used to be the old chicken barn area, and that's private land. And even when you look elsewhere, there's not that expanse, because we're talking about a major facility, traffic, having to control traffic flow. I saw that in the plan somewhere. I thought the potential of even having a helicopter pad so they can helicopter people in. That changes the dynamic. You're bringing people from further, you know, that kind of thing. We're looking at moving into a new way of doing things.
Yes, that's right.
It's
and Stars has been a tremendous asset to the province.
Yes.
To our community, I don't know how many times, you know, we've seen it fly into the community. You know, at times they're able to access the high school grounds. Quite often they have to be out at the airport, but to be able to have that land right at the you know, the healthcare facility.
Well, I've seen it in Portage, where they just come into that pad and boom and bang, everybody's there, and it gets off. It saves that time in between your quite right.
That's all. That time is saving lives, right?
I've got a number of questions, but one I'd like to ask now. So we've seen the much anticipated hotel being built. That stretch along the CN property is commercial zone, right?
Yes, it is.
Are there any signs that they're interested in that, or it's quite a prime area?
Yeah, I would have to talk to Marilyn myself, because that's her area. Marilyn Crew, our EDO, and but I do know that at any given time there's someone looking at the community. So there's constantly different organizations coming in, looking at the community, and we're going to see that, you know, we've hit that population of 6,000 people. The next number of years, we're going to see that probably increase in speed as companies and organizations, you know, are looking and just seeing, hey, this is really becoming a hub center here. And
well, and we do have the potential in terms of labor market. People who are interested in looking at other jobs, you know, that seems to be the nature of what's happened here. We've seen it within the community as it stands now. People come in for example, High Life, and people move out, people move in, but people move out into other community jobs. Well, look at how many newcomers are working within your organization, as well as in most of the other organizations in town, to some starting their own enterprises. We are a growing community. We're
absolutely. So along with that commercial area being looked at, there's we also have, you know, a lot of speculation in our industrial park as well.
I was going to say, of course, you look at that wide open space. There's got to be somebody who can find something there that they can latch onto.
So, like I said, there's a lot of speculation going on around the community, and it's all exciting. You know, it's exciting times.
It really is an exciting time to be here. You're part of it. One of the things it's done is it's allowed the tax base to increase, because, I mean, we're very fortunate in that the people who are moving here they're wanting to buy homes.
Yeah,
they're wanting to
that's
stay
exactly
here.
right.
They're the one thing we've never had a lot of, not since I've been here, and I imagine, well, certainly even before then, rental for young families.
Yeah.
Typically, our rental has been more for a senior population,
Yeah.
looking at retirement, semi-retirement, and otherwise it's been homes. So there's a lot of people have bought homes here. Like,
Yeah.
look at that. Well, look at when the CN property, bang. Well, within less than 2 months, the property was spoken for. Look at the building that's been
Yeah,
going on like crazy
no
over
kidding.
there. So it's certainly still a need. So
Yeah.
it's an interesting kind of dynamic. I want to ask you, you've had 2 council meetings. Tell me, what's hot on the council agenda these days?
I don't know about hot. Like, it's really organizing. Projects is the biggest thing, because there is so much. By the time you look at the golf course, the hospital, Park Lake, we just had a rush this year trying to get roads finished up in that.
Yes.
Certainly, we've been doing more with drainage. We've had to with water and sewer on Mill Street, with the new apartment block
Yes.
that's gone up
Yes.
on Main or on Mountain. So it's a lot of planning, and again, I wish could say that our budget is this big, but it's this big, and it has to be pieced out into each area, and there's a lot of needs. There's a lot of needs within the community that for limited funds to go.
That brings me to a point I've seen in the paper and received an email with regards to looking at transportation.
Transportation study.
So,
Yes.
so talk about that a bit. Where did
Well,
that come from?
I don't have a lot of detail on that myself. Certainly, Colleen would, our CAO would have a lot more information on that. But I know it was another grant that was applied for to be able to do a study, and on a number of things, not only traffic. But even walking, biking, things like that. But I haven't seen a lot of detail on it.
Because those in-person or virtual meetings are coming up in December. That's when I looked at the thing. That's where the schedule was to sort of get some feedback. And I wondered how broad-based that was. Are we looking at? Are we at a point where we need some kind of public transportation?
Yeah.
But if they're looking also, do we need bike paths? Do we need?
No, there'll be a lot more information on that coming out, Don. But even I would have to say I'm not really fully up to speed on that.
I'm assuming it was a pretty broad rollout in terms of reaching out to the community at large to say, if you're interested, you can participate in these ways. I think if you get an opportunity, now's the time to step up and talk about what kinds of transportation things you might need or see in the community. I think this is a good opportunity. It's like when we did the recreation survey 2 or 3 years ago, well, pre-COVID.
Yeah.
What's come out of that?
Yeah.
And generated things like the bike park and the walking trails and other kinds of
exactly.
things.
Because that was a real eye-opener for, for a Manitoba farm boy sort of thing.
Yeah.
My view of recreation is you have a hockey rink, you have a curling rink, and you have a golf course. That's recreation. So out of that came a lot different. Walking, biking trails, and that.
Pickleball courts.
Absolutely.
We have quite an avid pickleball group.
We do so, and we're trying not to fail them by getting these courts up and going, but unfortunately, we're limited on we're limited on getting asphalting into the community, and that's
Well, but we have an asphalt recycler.
yeah, not to be able to do that fine of work.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
Okay.
we that takes a little different type of product, and we're not able to do anything near that. And you know, I know the community struggles with asphalting, but you know, unfortunately, you know, the paving companies and that, they spend the majority. They make money building highways, roads and highways, and so getting them in each haul
And
is
there's a window of
difficult.
opportunity, which leaves a very smaller window of opportunity for projects like us.
Yeah, I wish there was a better, but even as a businessman in the community, it's so difficult trying to get these things. And I'm not criticizing the companies, because we need them to come back, but
It's just the nature of the beast.
It's very difficult timing, and all we needed was a week difference weather this year, and we wouldn't have had Davidson finished.
Yes,
you know,
and it was so nice to have it done.
Oh, yes.
A number of people have said, "Thank goodness," they've said, and lots of people don't understand the backstory.
No, and a lot of people don't understand. We need that year of settling to be able to before we can start paving. So
to sum it up, your targets when you look at going ahead, the hospital, Park Lake, bike paths, all projects in process. The pool. In an ideal world and with some good luck, maybe streets and sidewalks.
Right.
Anything else you see over the next 4 years, and I'm asking you to look at your crystal ball.
Yeah.
And it could be hazy.
Yeah.
What do you see additionally? Is there anything else you see potentially looking at over the next while?
Well, because we don't 100% know where we're at with the hospital and the funding and that.
Okay.
I'm really hesitant to say anything.
So you're waiting for some kind of actual number.
Yeah, we need to know where we're at, and it's going to be big. I know it's going to be. It's going to be something that the town of Neepawa, the surrounding RM partners, the community is going to have to be involved too. Like, this will
benefit the community.
Oh,
if you've actually, I mean, they do the best they can with emergency services now with what we've got.
Yeah.
But when you're looking at a facility that, when finished and staffed, is just focused on that, not tying up the rest, so to speak, if I can use those terms loosely.
Yeah.
That's going to be an impressive add to what's available here.
Right.
Coming in, getting it done. We hear the horror stories that are happening all over the country in emergency rooms now.
Right.
Especially in the larger urban centers, overwhelmed. And that's no different here, just a smaller version of.
Yeah.
It'd be nice to have something that has the ability to focus on dealing with those kinds of things.
Right.
Who knows what can happen?
No, exactly. And like I said, so we're all limited on our budget.
Mm-hmm.
It comes down to our budget. But we constantly, we have a very forward-thinking group, very forward-thinking administration. We're constantly looking at areas in that, you know, if we had an open checkbook, there's a lot of different projects that we would look at. And we are continually looking at different areas in that, you know, improve safety around the community. You know, there's so many things that we look at that we realize that, you know, in the pecking order, there's a spot for them, and as things change, different things move up and down on priority. But
that's part of the reality, isn't it?
Yeah,
you're just faced with that.
It's a living document.
Yes,
you know,
yes, very much so.
Constantly changing.
I was just thinking, it just flew into my mind. We were talking about the transportation survey. I've had people contact saying, we need another crosswalk across 16. This is coming out at different places. So that would be the time to bring that kind of thing up.
That's a great thing. With the increased number of people in the community, the increased traffic, are our current crosswalks safe enough? You know, we're looking at some interesting ideas on that as well. So, like I said, can't commit to anything, but we're always looking at
well,
stuff.
so long as you're not looking at a bypass around Neepawa.
Oh, heavens, no. No.
I remember when we first came here, that idea had sort of been floating around. I thought,
So do I.
And looking at the valley and that, building that would be quite the...
I tried to get a commitment from one of our government bodies as to whether we should be putting a gas station out on the highway, and they said, well, you know, we can't give you any idea, but, you know, there may be changes in 2 to 20 years. Well, that was 25 years ago, so I'm glad I went ahead with my building project.
With the building project. Well, it's a major. There is maybe need for another light. It's hard to say, just controlling that, because the volume of traffic in the past 5-6 years has changed dramatically. Local traffic.
Yeah, that's right.
Not just the highway traffic, and that's getting busier.
And I know the province probably, I'm sure the province is forward thinking. They would have been looking at what they can do differently around Neepawa. We see bypasses around many communities, but this is a very tough community to be able to do something like that.
Well, and I don't think it makes any sense. We've got a joint of 2 fairly major highways, 5 and 16, and it really wouldn't make any sense. And when you look at the topography, the costs, it's like we're not looking at a flat plain where you can just...
No, I think we're going to find that that highways will have a lot more concerning projects that they have to work on than something like that. And as a businessman in the community, I'm kind of thankful about that too.
Listen, we're coming close to the end of our program, and we've covered a lot of ground here. Anything you want to add, like anything that you're finding interesting that have come up at the council meeting that we may not generally have heard of, or any last thoughts or words at this point?
I don't think so, Don. I think for the most part we you know, we made a commitment last term that about, you know, transparency and doing these kinds of things. You know, the only time that that we're not able to bring forward things is when it involves the Privacy Act and that.
Yes.
But for the most part, you know, you have a lot of what is going on in council, and you know, this is definitely a good medium for us to be able to show here are some of the things that we're looking at and working towards, and at times having to caution the community that, and again, I'll bring it up for the 3rd time, that hospital is going to cost us a lot of money, so we can't go off on a whole bunch of rabbit trails.
Yeah, we have to, that always has to be factored in. It's well, I'm just thinking back to the very first time, your very first, shortly after coming on council, your very first meeting here.
Yeah. And
thinking back to that first interview and this interview, it's been interesting to see that sort of change and evolution going along. It's
well, I remember being asked about the different options for the cemetery, and I had no idea there was options.
It's interesting as you learn more, and when you think that things have been very stable for a long time, and now suddenly all sorts of new things are happening, and one's affecting another. It's an exciting journey, and it's a journey that doesn't look like it's going to slow down anytime soon.
No, and the thing is that lack of growth is difficult to manage. You know, if you have to start looking at cutting things and services and that, but extreme growth is very difficult to manage too. So, you know, really when we talk about how great a job our administration staff does, we really mean it, because these are exciting, fun times, very difficult to manage, very difficult.
So, you know what, on that note, I think I'm going to bring us to a close. Thank you very much. Mayor Hedley, Mr. Brian, and we're looking forward to future interviews. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to Council Checkup. If you ever have anything you'd like me to ask the people that come into this chair, please let us know at the station. Contact the station, air your question, and I will make sure that we raise it before the folks that come here. And so looking forward to future council checkups. Thank you for tuning in. Be safe, and I guess we're going to say probably have a Merry Christmas.
You
we
bet.
may see each other once more before, but
Yeah.
have a Merry Christmas, everybody.